Hi everybody, I have another botany lesson to share with you today. We are using the Live Education Waldorf curriculum, and this is for 5th grade, and this is the botany main lesson book. So we are up to working with lichen today, and I have a number of resources that we use in addition to the book itself, and I'm going to share those with you in just a little bit. Alright, so for this lesson, we tapped into some of the books that we have in our library, as well as going to our local library to get a few more. So finding things on these specific categories, lichen, fungi, and later mosses was a little more challenging than I expected, but we did find a few resources that were helpful, as well as the whole section on lichen in this book on fungi. So we read some of these aloud, and some of them I assigned to my 5th grader to read on his own. And then at this point we got ready to do our drawing, and then later we're going to do our narration. So I went ahead and did my sample first, and I have this little insert here where I was drawing some lichen that we found on one of our road trips years ago, and it has 2 different kinds of lichen on the branch, and then we also found this beautiful one that still has the bark attached. So at this point I'm going to let you take a listen at some of the instruction that I'm giving my son in preparation for this drawing. Alright, so we're going to do the tree first. I'm going to move this a little bit right here. So just go maybe out to here, okay, like this, okay, and then the rock can be right here, and then the tree branches can kind of go out this way, okay? Alright. Giving him a few pointers like that, as well as having my sample there for him to copy, has really helped him with his drawings this year, especially with this unit in which we're doing a lot more art than in some of the previous units. Now, of course, me drawing alongside with him allows me to help him when he gets stuck or help correct some mistakes that he might have made, although it's artistic, so it's not so much about mistakes that he is making rather than it's about helping him achieve what he is trying to achieve. So drawing can be a tricky thing. You can have an image in your mind of what you're trying to achieve, and if you don't achieve that, it can be really frustrating. So providing a couple of tips along the way really help out, and he's been so pleased with his final projects that it has encouraged him more the next time we do these kinds of projects. And so this unit, the drawing parts have gone about pretty easily. They've been really enjoyable. The writing parts, however, haven't. And I have a story to tell you about this particular writing assignment, and I'll save it for a little bit later. So once we get our basic pencil drawing done, we're going to move to doing our watercolors. Now my son bumped the camera, and so it's a little askew at this point, so I apologize for that. I do finally correct it when we're doing our watercolors. And for this little insert, I have the little lichen there and on the little tiny little tree branch that we are copying. So we're doing our best to copy this, which is a challenge when you're copying something 3-dimensional into a 2-dimensional format, but I think we both did okay. So now it's time to do the watercoloring, and we're using our distress ink pads, as I do with a lot of these different types of art projects that require nice earthy tones. I find that the color palette for the distress inks work really well with our drawings, and I feel like they're really easy to use. Now they're ink pads, but you can use them for watercoloring as well as stamping, as well as distressing paper, so I find them really versatile, and we end up using them quite a bit. So this is kind of the fun part, when you get to fill in your drawing. Now you don't actually have to pencil a drawing in first, but I kind of like the way it looks because you can see the pencil marks through the watercolor, and it actually helps define some of the shapes that otherwise would look like big blobs of color. So especially the lichen and the ferns that we added, when you do the pencil marks first, you can kind of see that through, and it kind of gives a little definition. Now, as much as my son enjoyed the art part of this project, he really didn't like writing about it. Now, we did use multiple sources for the narration, and that might have caused him a little bit of angst when it finally came to writing down his narration, because we were drawing from multiple sources, and he really didn't want to do this part. And he originally wrote a narration which was kind of cheeky, and he basically hid behind a book and wrote, "I don't like any lichen, but I have to write a story because Mama said so." And I was trying to make this narration more of a story rather than a dry regurgitation of information. So I don't think that that worked very well for Lichen. Anyway, not all lessons are winners, but in the end, I think this lesson came together pretty well. If you want to see the complete playlist for our botany main lesson block, you can tap on the screen right now. And don't forget that you can find me on a daily basis by visiting me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.